There's really not a lot I can say about this episode of My Hero Academia. It was a very good one, very touching one, as we finally find out who the spy of UA is. And it is our boy Yuga. Now, of all the characters in the class to be the spy, honestly, his quirk was kind of the weakest. Now, if you kind of look back and think back of all the times that he was actually in battle and helped everyone out, it wasn't like he really did a whole lot. Like, there was a few times where he came around and kind of, like, for example, all the schools are battling each other, and then he was the beacon, if you will, for the class to come together. That was about the most peak moment of him. There's been a few things he's done here and there, but nothing really like pivotal. To know that he was a spy, it was kind of like, well, dang, this kind of gives him a stronger character arc, I would say. It was very touching as far as for the students, feeling saddened by it, which makes sense. They're all sad by it, even he is. All the classmates thought of him as a true friend, and to be betrayed in such a way, and to know it was one of their own to betray them, it makes sense that they're so emotional. And it's so crazy how it was, I believe, all the way back in season 1, the principal, who's like the smartest there is, was even saying like, yeah, there's a possibility we have a spy. Finally, we're here in season 7, we find out to be true, but it makes sense. Like, how will the villains know their location and know how to attack them all the time if there wasn't a spy? And yet, here it is that he is the spy. I will say, they did kind of show it in this episode, but I believe, if I remember correctly, in the manga, they heavily made it seem like it was the invisible girl that was the spy. And they did allude to it a little bit at the beginning of the episode when All For One was talking about like he has someone as a plant, and then they panned over to her. It made you think, oh man, maybe she's a spy. Oh wow, because it makes sense. She's invisible, so her quirk literally is spying things out. All she has to do is remove her gloves, and she could just go anywhere, hear anything, and unless someone has quirks that deal with reading body temperature or minds and things like that, she's a perfect spy for anything. Just be in a corner of the room and take notes. It ends up that she was hiding out and overhearing what the true spy was doing. Real quickly, I want to interject here. Why is she hiding behind a tree? All she has to do is take her gloves and shoes off. She's freaking invisible. Like, hello? Why are you, of all people, hiding behind a tree? Be like, oh no, I hope they don't overhear me, or see me. You're freaking invisible. Why are you hiding? I couldn't let that go. I couldn't let that go. But let's move on. I'm glad Midoriya was the one that actually came up with this idea. We saw how All For One was saying, oh, you know what? My spies, the people that work for me, are expendable. Oh well, if they end up getting caught, end up having problems happen to them, c'est la vie. I'll just move on to a different plan. The heroes are looking at it like, wait a minute, we've been on the receiving end and been reacting to All For One and his actions. This is the first time that we can utilize him to one-up All For One. All they have to do is set up a trap. If the plan was for Yuga to isolate Deku, so then that way All For One can capture him, then all they have to do is set up that trap. So then the villains will come, try to get Midoriya, and then lo and behold, all the heroes are there, and they can spring their trap, like a reverse trap, on top of them. So then that way they can actually prepare and battle when they want to. Because they know that they have a week for Shigaraki to heal up, or thanks to Star and Stripe. So they can actually go on the offense instead of always being on the defense, which is a great play. And I'm glad that they actually allowed Midoriya to kind of say this plan, and everyone was like, oh wait, that's a great idea. Kind of to show that he's getting better at strategizing, getting smarter, and maybe as he's always been pretty smart and always been strategizing, even back in season 1 when he was writing down quirks of other people and learning from their quirks, even when he was quirkless. But now he's able to utilize the quirks of others to anticipate because he has all these powers. So for him to be like, hey, friend, work with us, help us out. So then that way, you know, the villain that you think you are, it's not going to be as bad. You could actually be the hero in setting this trap and letting the heroes actually prevail for once. Now, before we go, I will have to say that I'm glad, like we speculated in the 2 episodes ago when we went over the main theme song, that it kind of showed a glimpse of the Invisible Girl, what she looks like, Toru. And the fact that it actually showed more of her here, I think was actually pretty cute, because you can kind of see her despair, if you will, for finding out who the spy is. Because it would have been not as important or actually underwhelming if it just showed her invisible, but then it just showed tears just, you know, flying in the sky, to actually kind of use the particle effects of her reflecting his light beam, because, you know, she reflects light, that's why she's invisible, to see kind of a glimpse of what she looks like. And it's pretty cute, even though here she is invisible. They could have just wrote her off and like, well, she's invisible, we don't have, all we have to do is just draw gloves everywhere, we don't have to really care as much to her actual appearance through her quirk. And yet they give so much detail to what she looks like, to look like she has this green hair, green eyelashes and all this, how she herself fits in with the other cast members, the other girls in the class, to actually look like, hey, she actually looks like a very good model. She actually looks very good. This is a good way that they've actually utilized their artistic detail to a model that normally would be invisible. So hats off to them. Regardless, there really wasn't much to really go on this episode, because the whole episode was all about finding out who the spy is and the emotional effects that he brings when the class realizes that he's the spy. That was pretty much it. But it looks like next week we might get maybe some more background on maybe some of the classmates or their plan or what is to happen. So we shall see how it all works out, and there'll probably be a lot more to discuss next week, but this week I think was a good episode and really sets the stage of what could happen in the future. Tell me what you guys think in the comments down below, but make sure you guys do not leave without liking the video or even subscribing, because definitely we've been having a lot more viewers to these reviews, and I appreciate you guys for being here. Please hit that subscribe button, and I would love to see you guys more in the future. You guys be safe, take care, and Lord willing, I will see you next time. Bye-bye for now. Make sure to check out the extra content on our Patreon page, and thanks to our current patrons.
This ain't what you want, bitch, I'm a fucking phenomenon.